on a Sunday, and with mask, without mask, we're just grateful you're here. So without further ado, let's jump into reports. I know it's a Saturday and it's our annual meeting. The first item on the agenda is the financial report for August 2020, and we have Lisa down to walk us through that.
Yes, and I know that Shannon Burns actually apologizes that she couldn't be here. She has a daughter getting married. I think it's next weekend, so she's doing lots of last minute things with that. But she did send me the report. It's in your packet. Take a look at that. It should be right after the agenda. This is the report for August. And you can see in there was quite a bit of activity. A little bit in the income, quite a bit in the expense column, and that is actually due to the meeting that was held and the very generous gift that the foundation made to the district to help purchase Chromebooks for students in East Central. And so you'll see the beginning balance at $250,862.26, and then our ending balance after the donation was made $119,946.87.
Any questions? I think Gretchen is trying to get in.
I'd like to address the president of our foundation, Mary Beth. Have we, as a board or anybody, analyzed like the bottom, you take the bottom 10 or 12 scholarship funds. They've been static for several years. None of that money's been spent for that. In other words, for the Mary Tootie Pianzi, $2,500. What's that? What does she want that for? And as far, like Highland Forest donation design, $90. And then you've got Dale Miller and Greg, and all those guys at $1,000, and none of that money's been spent, and it hasn't, I don't think there's been any money put in those things for quite some time, have it?
I know that the Millers have given a scholarship, but I don't think they do it every year. But it's certainly, I think it's a good idea to go back for donor designations. These are designated funds.
Yeah, because I know that there's a lot of these in here that are $200 or $300, and didn't we discuss one time that we would contact those people? Because if they pass away, that money, if they have it designated, it's untouchable.
That's right.
And
It's their families that, I think
we have to
set those
clear
up. We'll have to go back and clear it with.
because every once in a while, when we needed money for these Chromebooks, that might have been a way for them to contribute $4,000, $5,000, could have been $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
I could talk to the Olivia boys and see what they want to do.
Great.
For Greg's
Great, and
assets.
I could do the Pianzi.
$1,220 there.
Sure,
Could
that's great.
be used for something positive.
Okay. And I can do the Miller and the Pianzi.
I think we discussed it at a former meeting one time, but I hate to see that money sit there
Sure.
and not be at work for some students. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. There are ECHS principal scholarships, so that actually does move, right? So
Understand.
are there any others on the list that you feel like we
Well,
need
you
to
got the
follow
Wells
up on?
Fargo gift program, $248, and that's not gonna go very far. When it says gifts program, I don't know gifts for what. I mean, is there designated, how do we research that and see where that money's?
Shannon Burns, I think. We need to go back to Shannon
Okay.
and ask her.
I think
And find out what documentation that she would need also to release those funds.
Absolutely.
I think we ought to look at all those that fall under $500. You got Pecan Valley program, $60.
Mhm.
And, we have that brick drive that we did for the, I guess it's the
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Was that Heritage, or
Well,
was that,
long
or was
ago.
that the bricks that we sold from the,
Oh, that's right, from the school.
across the street?
Yes.
Why can't my brain work?
On the Saturday.
Yeah, there you go, John.
Well, like,
So, I mean, were those designated for a specific purpose, or was it just were generally supposed to be for the general fund? I think we need to get more clarification as to how these assets were supposed to be allocated. If they're just general fund dollars, and, we obviously want these folks to get the recognition, but if it's for the general fund, then we need to allocate.
I think all of these on this sheet were restricted, so, we know their intent was not general fund. But some of
Well,
them
if
have
we
been on
need
for
a
a long
scholarship, we
time.
need to discuss having, hey, let's create scholarships for these assets so that they can be designated and given to these folks who might need them for the various reasons.
Yeah, and even going further, we don't even know what type of curriculum or any type of
but then,
avenue to even direct it.
Exactly.
because most people would say, I want this to go towards
Right.
a nursing program or ag, you know. New board members, we have no idea what those are for.
I think
Most of us
Shannon
don't vote.
has a pretty good idea of where they came from, and their restrictions
Yeah, I would-
on. I just don't think it's on the sheet for us, but some of them have been there a very long time, so.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to vet through that and see if we can get money.
Put that money to work. I think both these people would agree with that. I would think they would, if they're really conscious of, you know,
So I'll take an action item, if this works for you guys, to go back to Shannon
I think that'd be
and
right.
get more details about that, and then
Just
see
go
if
down
we
that-
can do follow-up. Fair
I'd
enough?
I'd go down this entire list, if it looks like it hasn't moved in a year or two, and if it's less than $1,000, instead of, you know, even those that are $1,000, Espinoza and Glenn Griswold, you said, Joe, you know those?
Olivia.
Well, but anyway, I know we discussed this once before, and I think it's time to take a look at it again.
No, that's great, I don't know if we ever.
Gary Patterson. I mean,
Okay, done,
what are those assets targeting?
right.
And are we doing everything we can to make sure that they're meeting their intent?
Let's try it.
Okay, good deal.
Sorry, Gretchen is trying to get in, and so she's gonna try now to get in by phone. She's having there's a bit of a technical glitch, I guess.
So, you got the financial thing finished, Lisa?
So, yes, any other comments?
Easy to read.
If not, we'll take the action item, move forward with that, and file the report for audit. Our next item is the spring scholarship report.
Yes, and that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. So you'll see that page directly after the financial report. And of course, this spring with, of course, with COVID and students at home learning remotely, we actually did all of the scholarships online. So we did online applications for scholarships. I think that's probably a first for these. And I worked with the several of the counselors at the high school. But you'll see the scholarships that were awarded. Roland Espinoza, that goes to a male and a female. And those amounts, I think, have been the same probably for several years. Inez Spear is an art scholarship. The FFA scholarships. And then there's the Jeremiah Grizzly Gonzalez Memorial Scholarship. And then the two principal scholarships that went out. And then the sales scholarship, the San Antonio Livestock Exposition, is actually, I know Mary Beth, you were involved in that, I think interviewing the candidates, and also was it Amanda Holman, I believe works on that as well. And that was a $20,000 scholarship.
And it all has to go to one student. They don't allow it to be broken up.
Right.
That goes to
Mary
one.
and I have done had in the past. And it's always makes you feel good to see what kind of kids that we're producing
And
out
they
there.
were, that's some good,
Wow.
good appetite.
That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really have their stuff
Excellent.
together, really good kids.
Well, for those of y'all who are new to the board, for years, when Joe was president and I was president, we had to sign checks to individual students because SAIL would send the money to the foundation. And then it was up to our discretion and the testing situation where, we'd rate them on had a 3 or 4 page thing, right, Joe?
At least.
And we had to go through all that, and then we would interview them, and then we would rate them. After that, we were done with it, and they would go back to the administration, and they would issue the scholarships. And then we'd have to sign the checks, 2 signatures, we did that. It got to be quite a bookkeeping thing, I guess, for the school and for SAIL. But then one day they decided, we're just gonna send one person, but we used to take 20,000 and divide it up, right, Joe?
Yeah, like
We'd get
two or 3 or 4 ways,
Yeah.
not any really more than that, but yeah. we can
So they're
split it up.
gonna give people, 5,000 apiece, but those days are gone, so
No, she's trying to get on. She's asking what number she should
makes it a
call.
lot simpler.
It does.
Do we know, Lisa, what the response difference was in relation to online? And so originally when we were doing, it was always online, correct? Or was it
I
not?
think, no, looking at the files from the previous years, I think it was, paper,
Right.
pencil paper, that must have been distributed to students and then collected. But always working, I guess Kathy Zotz at that time worked closely with the counselors. And so,
Well, we just kind of live in a digital world with these young
Yes.
kids now.
right,
So I'm just
I know.
thinking maybe there's a different avenue we need to go through if we have a larger response and even evaluation too. I mean, some of these kids are probably scared to death of getting in front of us in a room, so maybe that's a deterrent. I don't know.
Yeah,
Really,
not these kids out here, buddy.
no. Well, I think we just want to make sure we keep getting more and more applications. I mean, that's what's really important.
I know, and, this time around, just, faced with what we were faced with and knowing that the kids were at home, I looked and did some research and found a place where we could do online scholarships, and it didn't cost anything. It was a free service, and so I took all the information and put it online. And the nice thing about it is that the students could then upload, and we talked about, the kids, and so we had them upload their resumes, which they have resumes already, yes, in high school.
Good.
Recommendation letters, personal essays, and of course the application itself. So all of those items. Oh, and for the art scholarship, they were asked to upload, I think, 10 or 12 samples of their work. And so the nice thing is all those can be uploaded into just one package. And then because it's digital, it can be shared out that way.
But I know the FFA scholarships, we have to have a meeting with them and talk with them as far as, we had some pointed questions of what they wanted to do. It's kind of hard to do on applications. but-
And so there was a for this year, and it worked fine. They're, like Barry said, they're just really excellent students. And I think that the agriculture teachers also helped them
Oh, yeah.
prepare for the center meeting, because it's a big scholarship. And the 20,000, unfortunately, can't be broken up anymore. And that's based on sales decision.
Right.
Thanks.
Good question. So we've got the takeaway on that. That's great. I do see that we have the meeting minutes next in our packet. Can we take a minute to look those over and see if we have any corrections?
I think so.
If not, can we have a motion to, actually, we have 2 sets of minutes that we probably do need to approve. One for June 11th, the other for
July.
August 11th, which both were virtual meetings, conference calls. So, Barry, you made a motion for the June to approve. Do we have a
Yes.
second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes approved. And now we can move on to August 11th. It was an important meeting because of the decisions made about distribution.
Well, how are the Chromebooks coming? Have they got them all in yet, or they still got some on the back burner? Y'all know?
I don't know, do you know? Did it-
No, I don't know.
Do we have any corrections to these minutes?
Not that I'm aware of.
Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. In favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's approved. Thank you, guys. And thank Robin, I think Robin did the minutes.
Yes.
They're very comprehensive, very good.
I know.
Great, excellent. Yes. Okay, next item on under reports, I think I jumped ahead on the minutes, sorry about that. Our summer ECISD presentation by Irma Jean.
Yes, hello everyone, good morning, thank you all for giving me a few minutes. Our board of directors, our school board representative, Mr. Bryant, thank you all. In the past, Meredith Rokas has always given this report, and I have to thank her for helping me get this together. This was my first summer working with summer at ECISD, and what a summer it was to try to put this together. So, is this okay? Okay. We just have a few slides to go over. You can go to that next slide. So this next slide will look familiar to you. It is our profile of an EC graduate. And through the year, summer at ECISD is always anchored at designing its program around these skills of the profile of the EC graduate vision. And this summer was no different. Even though we had to pivot several different times as far as the programs that we offered, we still wanted to offer extended learning opportunities that was going to close that achievement gap between our economically disadvantaged students and those without disadvantages. So before everything hit in March, we had slated to offer 62 different enrichment programs, sports programs, and academic enhancing offerings over a 8-week time frame. And we were looking at serving over 2,000 students. So even, you can go to the next slide. Even with the circumstances of the last few months, we were still able to offer these summer programs that close that achievement gap that I spoke about. It gave some students a jump start and sharpening their skills for algebra and geometry as freshmen, which we know that's always a hurdle for some of our students to jump over. So we wanted to make sure that we offered them something, even if it had to be virtual. We offered opportunities for students to recover some credits that they may not have missed out on, which can be really life-changing to students in their course of high school and graduating on time and graduating with their peers. So we were able to offer that opportunity, as well as the government and economics. This is more of an enrichment course that we have offered historically, and we're still able to offer virtually. This gives students opportunities to free up their schedule to take classes. One example would be the fire safety class that they're able to take if they get this government and economics kind of out of the way in a condensed summer program. And we also were able to offer, even though it was not face-to-face all the time, but the strength and conditioning to our 7th through 12th grade athletes, we were able to offer that. And for our pre-K through 8th grade, we offer the Texas Summer Home Learning, which Texas 2.1 was actually a curriculum that the Texas Education Agency offered to all public schools for summer programs. And we took advantage of that. We were able to hire teachers who taught these classes virtually, much like we're doing right now. They were doing remote learning. These teachers, we asked from the from the administrators, like who did a fantastic job during the spring in virtual remote learning. And so we got suggestions from them because we really wanted it to be engaging for our students. And these teachers were all in. They had small classes, so they were able to do really one-on-one conferencing with their students over that curriculum, the summer home learning. That happened as well as the algebra enrichment classes. It also gave our teachers kind of a jump start into what to expect this semester with remote learning. I heard back from many of the teachers and they said, this built my confidence to teach remotely with parents in the background and, just kind of answering those questions for the parents and building relationships with students that they really had never met because they had students from all 7 elementary campuses, both middle schools, even some high school students for the algebra enrichment, those 9th graders that had already taken algebra and were going into geometry. So your contributions to the summer at ECISD not only impact the students, but it also impacts our teachers because they were able to try new things out during the summer when stakes may have not been so as high as they are in the regular school year. So I want to thank you for that. And these are really all of our summer offerings. The ones with the asterisk, of course, those are the classes that had a registration fee tied to them. The algebra enrichment and the summer home learning for pre-K through 8th grade were free of charge. So you can go on to the next slide, Sam. Thank you. So together with the East Foundation and our Dixie Starnes Wiener Foundation, we provided 110 students, which represented 102 East Central families with a summer at ECISD 2020 scholarship. So of the students who participated in the credit recovery, 53% of those students benefited from a scholarship. Government and economics was 45%, and then our athletes that participated in the strength and conditioning, 11% of them benefited from these scholarships. So in all of our students, we served just under 700 students. And I do want to make mention, I know that we had highlighted this through some of our lives, but in the strength and conditioning, our athletic department under the direction of Suzette Areola and our high school administrators, they worked so hard to ensure the safety of those students. And really those athletes were some of the first ones to come back on campus and be face-to-face. And talk about impact, I think that is, the kiddos were, for the most part, starving to come back and get that interaction and get back to some type of normalcy. So that's a huge impact there. The last slide is really just thanking you all so much for your continued support of our Summer at ECISD program. And we just hope to grow it and to impact more students, to make more opportunities available for our students and teachers. So I think that's it.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
When y'all set up this summer program, like maybe, are you looking ahead to next summer for a similar program, let's say, right?
Well, we hope to be face-to-face, but we're planning for every situation. We are already in the stages of planning now.
I'm saying, but the programs you've had may change next year depending upon the demand or what's relevant. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
cool.
sir. And we will
So you
definitely,
be flexible.
right. And we hope to get back to the same programs
Sure.
we had summer before last. But all the enrichment, our community has grown to depend on these enrichment opportunities. And some of these students are here all 8 weeks in one program or another. So we hope very much to get back to that.
Good.
program. Yes, sir.
Sounds good.
So the programs are 8 weeks in length?
Well, they vary. Some of them are 2 weeks, some of them are only 1 week, but there's 8 weeks of offerings. So if a parent really, studied that schedule, they could schedule their child for something just about every week.
So y'all summer babysitters.
That's right. That is one service, yes.
High level.
It could be a better.
High level, yes, yes, it's much more.
Good hands, like Allstate.
That's right.
Well, it really is. That is really good for the kids.
I agree, yes. And Meredith Rokas has always made it her mission to get the best teachers, the best assistants in there, to go out and look for outside vendors, such as, we've had karate, we have theater, we have drama, just to have these offerings so that the students would be engaged and interested.
That's great. Congratulations on adapting.
Yes, thank you.
That's all work.
It's day to day, minute to minute, just like every other program. Thank you.
Good work, good work.
Thank you so much. Our next order of business on the agenda is the Leroy Smith mini grant presentation, and that's by Lisa. Hello, Gretchen, are you on the call with us?
Not sure.
Yes, Lisa, sorry.
Yes, no, thank you. Actually, what I have, and I guess Sam is going to cue this up, is just a recap of the Leroy Smith mini grants for this past year. We ended up, and I think this is in the presentation, through your funds, we're able to award 25 teacher projects, a total of $90,000. And I know several of you helped with making the award announcements, which was a lot of fun to do with the giant check and to go in and surprise the teachers and their students. So we really appreciate that. And then also I was able to get feedback from many of the teachers on how they have been using the funds and how it's been impacting their students. So if you want to turn your attention to a real short little recap here of it.
Good presentation.
It was wonderful to be a part of that.
That last slide, the little boy went up there and did that. How can I get in that class so I can learn how to do all that?
I know, and, you know.
But what was that about? I didn't know what he was doing.
Well, it was something, she called it, a starboard, I believe, and so it's interactive, and they can, use it by touch. So like a touch screen, and so they can do all kinds of lessons on there, things that they might normally have to do, paper and pencil. They
That's
can go
crazy.
up there and all the other class, students can see it and do a variety of things.
We had a
Really happy
blackboard, we
about
had a
that.
blackboard when I went to Boca. Still back to go. That's wonderful, that is
I
really great.
know. And she actually, this last one, she just posted that short clip on her Twitter account. And we follow up as many teachers as we can, and I saw that, and I said, I have to grab that and use it.
Sure.
Well, that was well done. Thank you,
Oh, yeah.
Lisa.
Lisa, this is fantastic. Yeah, this is really nice. How can we, it's all about also providing what all the people that help in relation to this. So can you have this shared and send it to us, and we can then share with individuals that have also been part of the
Oh, that's a great
fundraising
idea.
of that, like, if you don't mind.
No, I think that's a great idea. And with the board members that aren't here as well.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, it would be good to share with, the donors we have,
Yes,
say,
exactly.
say,
This
hey,
is why.
this is what.
That's where some of your money's going.
Exactly.
Good idea. I like that idea.
So you might have some of those email addresses that is to share. Thank you. That's exciting. Good to see the work that's being done and also the classroom activities as well. Great. All right. Well, our next action item is 3B, which is to approve and designate seed money for the 2021 gala. I think previously we had talked about an amount of $10,326.66, but we do need to vote on it today.
I move that we designate that amount.
That's that.
Any discussion? We have a motion to approve this amount for seed money for the gala. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. All right. So the next item is to verify recommendations for Board of Director renewable terms. And we have two of our board members who are very active and have given of their time and talents for many years in serving, that we want to recommend for reappointment of a 3-year term, and that's Joe Ritterhouse and Gretchen Stepke. I have talked with both, and they're both willing. So do we have a motion to reappoint for a 3-year term?
I move so.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, and we have Gloria second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
All opposed?
And we thank them wholeheartedly.
We are very grateful. Yes, and thank you, Gretchen. She can hear us, we just can't hear her. Okay. So, grateful for that. So we do have at the very back of your packet, our current term limits and also designated. It's the very last page in the nice packet that Lisa's put together for us here. Very comprehensive. Thank you for the materials as well. And we have, I did reach out because not everyone was able to be here today. I did reach out to, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Recommendation for advisory directors. That's the next order of business. I think it's important to look at the list of who our advisory directors are now. We know some of them are still very actively involved. Others I'm not sure if we've heard from for a while. So can we take just a minute to look through that list?
Sure.
And then to see, because we have opportunities to add certainly more. Annette Alonso is new to the advisory role and was active leading up to the gala and will be active moving forward. Of course, Jackie is also.
We haven't seen Lowell Denton in a while.
With the district, is Lowell's firm doing much work now?
I know James Cosper, I work with him, he's a kitchen consultant. I haven't heard from him, he hasn't been around. I don't like calling him and asking, or we just assume they're not.
I think calling them would be great.
I can call James.
James was active at one time. I know he had children in the district. And, sometimes I think when the children, it's a little harder to stay connected.
Tommy Sanders is an East Central graduate, but he hasn't been around for a while. I can call him and see if he wants to stay on as an advisor. Lindsay Gates, it's the Gates family, I might say, they've been very helpful, so I'm not gonna.
I'm happy to call Sherry Lubianski. We haven't seen her. She does have some talents that can be useful to us, but
let me call and just see if she's interested again. Well, she still has kids in the district, actually.
Didn't Catherine come to the gala?
I think I saw her, she was at the gala, wasn't she?
Catherine Engelberg?
I know her public services bought the hotel.
So having a representative connected. is
Right, I think
important.
that's a good idea.
And Joe's gonna call Tommy. And Daryl Anderson, they haven't been engaged, I don't think. They will generally do like a silent auction item, but they didn't this last time.
He's with Ford.
He's with McCombs. And their kids have all graduated.
Well, as long as those people are advised, we can always contact him for financial assistance, of course, during the fundraising area. I think most of them responded, I think.
I'm happy to call him and just say, we saw you listed as an advisor. Are you still willing to do this? Silent auction items are great, I don't know. Well, then, did we decide if we need to reach out to Lowell and who should call him?
Well, I tell you what
I
I'll
don't really
do.
know him either.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll go by his law office. It's right over there on, McCullough. I think I'll drop in and see him next week.
Great, perfect.
He and I are the one that's already put together that scholarship
That's
thing.
right.
And he kind of dropped out for the last, we both, put seed money in that thing, and that's, I don't know if I saw him at the gala this year or not.
I don't think
I
so.
didn't see him.
I didn't see him. I didn't see his
you know,
sister.
Yeah, I think I'll go by, I'll take responsibility to contact him and see what's going on.
Great. And I'll call David Marquez. He's very busy. If we did choose to try to go to a facility that was owned by the county, he could be helpful to us. Because he's the economic development director and now has many more titles. So getting the meetings for him
For
is
San Antonio?
Bear County. And he's an East Central grad.
Right. I met him, a nice young man.
Michelle Hickman?
She's still active, her kids are still in school here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rogelio Lopez?
That's Judge Lopez, he's still fairly active.
Kathy Meadsey, did she live here anymore? Or is she living on the East Coast now? Or does she
She
live back?
had an aunt, I think, or something, that was sick, and she was going back and forth all the
Oh.
time. But that was a couple of years ago, and I think she had, I don't know if she passed on, back maybe, but I haven't heard anything. My daughter was in school at the same time her daughter was. But it's been a long, long time, I think, years since she's been involved. Oh, gosh, I don't even have a phone number for her. I could try to find her, I mean, I can look up, I can Google her.
I think Facebook messaging, she's pretty active on Facebook,
Okay.
but I haven't talked to her in years. I don't think we've seen her. She was really involved with the PTA at one time. for the district.
She was what?
Involved in the PTA, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Who, Kathy?
So you're gonna try to? reach
Yeah.
her? Okay, thank you, Gloria. And then, of course, Mr. Mahosky is always helpful to us.
It's a
Our
no-brainer.
Shane Pape,
Wasn't he with CTOS, that same kid I'm thinking about, Joe?
That sounds right.
Hey. I haven't seen any, they're a big vendor for East Central. It should be, ought to be a letter, I don't know, if send a letter to him or the management and say, we would really like to have someone participate from your organization. We do an awful lot of business with you guys. Not like you're blackmailing them.
and maybe
Sort
that's
of
where
like black.
Roland co-signs the letter.
I'm sorry?
Maybe Roland could co-sign that letter.
Okay.
Maybe that's where, okay, we have been missing Shane and
Yeah.
we would love to see.
Shane, come back.
Well, we'd love to see if you have another person or if Shane's
That's right.
very engaged, kind of thing. So letter, that's a good idea. Danny Schroed? I don't know that person.
I've met him and I can't, I know the name, but I can't remember what he looks like.
You know where he's from?
I do not recall.
I can research him and see if I can find out anything. Look through some of Kathy's files.
We don't have anybody on from Lineberger, do we, at all on the advisory council?
I mean, they're supportive of the gala.
Oh, yeah, they always buy it. I've dealt with them through the fire station. I'm a commissioner on ESD 11, and I've dealt with them on some paperwork that was sent to me, which wasn't supposed to go to me. So I went down to their office one day, this is before they moved to their new space, and I can't remember that lady's name, but she was on last night. Told her, oh yeah, we participate in the foundation all the time. I said, yeah, we appreciate it, but I kind of wonder if maybe we ought to ask them if they have anybody that would like to serve as an advisor.
I can do that.
I think that'd be great.
Thank you.
And I can't remember her name,
I'll look it up. I'll look up my email, because it might be the same person.
contact person. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Okay,
And then Barry Sturlock? Anybody know that name?
I don't even know who that is.
So Barry was,
Barry was
one of the principals in the
Right.
engineering firm that we used before y'all.
I think he, engineering or architectural,
I'm sorry?
maybe architectural one.
Yeah,
He was,
architectural firm. They did Heritage.
And I
he
think
was
just-
involved quite a bit there.
Yeah, they've done a couple of small projects.
I think he did the little renovation at the
Yeah.
Cape.
But
He's
Barry
still,
spun off a new company after that original company that we dealt with. As far as I know, he's still in the area. Used to be very
Well,
supportive.
maybe if we have an address for him, we can send him a letter too.
Yeah.
Say we appreciate your past interest. and,
Mhm.
You know, are you still interested in being an advisor?
Are there any other businesses that we work with, or have worked with recently in
You should know we
conjunction
haven't
that,
forgotten.
we got the best
We send
one.
her a letter. and say, We
But,
appreciate your.
anybody else that
interest in
business wise,
the
that
district.
you think we should possibly
You
invite
10
to
years
be an
of
advisor?
advisor.
I think about it.
You're a pro.
But yeah, I think the answer to that is yes. Can't think of their name right now. Who did all of the work at Solana?
oh, the Joris folks.
Yeah,
You still want to get someone from Joris.
Joris is very active in the ACE program that a lot of our kids
They were at the gala.
Yes, and it would be very nice to get them involved in the
Yeah,
foundation.
I agree with you.
From that ACE perspective, as well as what they've done for us commercially within the district.
And Gary Joris is very active in
Right.
the San Antonio livestock program as well, like really active.
Yeah.
And they're,
You know,
and they're very involved
obviously, kind
in
of deal.
Southwest or Southwest ISD.
I'll reach out to Justin Bindelay. He's the senior PM here. I'll reach out to him to see if he's interested. I'm sure it's good for them as far
Yeah,
as,
we have quite a few students in the ACE program. Two of my grandsons participated in that program, and they're both in engineering school at UTSA right now. So it's a good program, and they've been very active.
I'll reach out to him.
Great,
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
great. And, you know, I think we can add advisors at any point throughout the year. It's not just.
Yeah.
Correct.
So any other
Yeah.
ideas?
But I think Lineberger would be a good one to approach.
How's Melvin doing?
Pardon?
Melvin Brazil?
Melvin, as far as I know, he's fine. I saw him late last year at him and Dell and his wedding anniversary.
Oh,
So as far as I know, he's doing fine.
They were at the gala, weren't they? I kind of can't remember.
I don't remember.
I think they might have been there.
I love those two folks. Okay, good deal. Perfect. So any other thoughts on that before we move on with all of our follow-ups? Thank you, everybody, for volunteering. And thank you, Lisa, too. Great, okay, perfect. So we can go on to item E, which is the election of officers for 2021 school year. The list that you have at the back of the other, of the packet kind of shows you where we are. I can share with everybody that we did touch base with the officers that are currently listed. I talked with Robin Massengale. She would be willing to serve for another term. Gloria had indicated she'd be willing to serve for another year, as had Joe. And, if the board so decides, I'm happy to serve another term. So, but we need to open it up and everybody share your thoughts.
Barb, I would like to verify Mary Beth as being our president for the next 3-year term.
1 year.
I thought we said 6-year term.
1 year.
Yeah, you got one more
I'll
year.
second that.
For the second, for 1 more year,
Thank you.
2021.
Okay, all in favor, say aye, please.
I,
All opposed?
I've got a good thing going here. We can mess up.
Okay, our VP, first and second VP.
Second VP?
First VP currently.
Joe?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Her motion,
I move for Joe. Hang in there.
I will second that.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yay, Joe. All right, second VP.
I move Gloria.
I second.
One more year.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yay, Gloria, thank you. Next one is Secretary Treasurer.
I moved it, Robin. Has it.
Second.
All those in favor of Robin Messigo for Secretary Treasurer, please?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We've got Robin, and Gretchen is voting online here. Thank you, AAA. Thank you, Gretchen.
Okay, I have something real quick that I wanted to bring up. It seems like in the past, we had terms that were staggered more. And if you look now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those are all in the same year. Is there something we can do to remedy that so we can have them more, where there's like 2 here, 2 here, 2 here? Just so, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A really
They
good
were
point.
staggered one.
It used to be, you had, what do we have, 9? You'd go 3, 3, 3,
So you have to shorten the terms
or extend.
or extend.
Right.
Until we, and then get it established back to the, is that something we need to remedy, or do we just leave it as is?
Personally, I think it's a great idea, and it's a good thing to address since we have a quorum here today. I don't know, bylaws-wise, Lisa, is this, do we have the authority to extend that? Is that something that has to go to the board? That we can recommend?
Typically recommend to us a person and a term. And so there's no reason why you couldn't this year change the
Extend.
term of a couple of people to be
Like
a 2-year term
2022.
instead of a 3-year or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
unless there's something in your bylaws that precludes it, all you send us is a name and a term. So do with what you would like.
It might be that, some of these people came in when someone else left in the middle of their term. And so instead of calculating just at the end of that term, we didn't calculate correctly.
Right.
So if we go back and find out when these people actually started their terms, it might fix the
And see whose
situation.
term that they replaced,
Right.
and then substitute that date for the dates we have here. Maybe that's the resolution.
Because I know
clean
it
that all
hasn't been that long ago that we had
Right.
this staggered.
Exactly.
That's right.
We just need to verify.
Okay.
And then we can fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy remedy, and it makes the most.
Good idea, Gloria.
Well, that's great.
That old
Thank you.
old CPA accounting kicked right in there.
Every now and then. That's great.
That's a good idea, Gloria, it really is.
And it's a good point. Very good point.
Good point.
Perfect. Thank you, so Lisa, that you'll follow up on that.
Yes.
And bring it back. Okay, thank you so much. Great. All right, the next item on the agenda, if we can move on, is the, we talked about that, catch up here, approval of recommended monthly meeting dates for, is this the 2020-21?
Yeah,
Yes, it
correct.
is. And I believe,
We have just a misprint on the,
Sure. On the agenda.
no big deal.
I'm
I
sorry,
make a
Lisa.
motion to accept the the dates that we have suggested.
Same here. I agree. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We have our meeting scheduled, and Gretchen says yes. Good for continuity of our term limits, so. Thank you, Gretchen. Perfect. All right, let's see, what else do we need to, announcements? I know we've, at the last meeting, there was a gala committee put together that, is gonna help with planning, and anybody that wants to be a part of that, please, let us know, and we'll make sure that they include you in the conversations. We really appreciate, the input from everybody. It takes a village, you know? So, well, it looks like we're at the end of our agenda.
Okay, on the, that subject of the gala, of course, we don't know what's going to transpire health-wise between now and February, March. Didn't you all talk about, just to refresh my memory, some other venues? We talked about
Yes.
Whitty Museum, we talked about UIW and all that.
I think the general feedback was that everybody really liked kind of the new environment, that we got to change and move somewhere else. But we all recognized, and the other part of the feedback was it was too small. And it Whitley didn't give us enough room. We had the cap. You know, I don't know that we ever really turned anybody away, but there were people who inquired and we said we were full, right, Lisa?
I think, yeah, the last time we were able, we squeezed in that 40th table,
Yes.
and that was, it was
It
tight.
was tight.
It was just, we sure couldn't do that under pandemic. Might be lucky to put them out in the East Central football field, space them out, you know?
So during the exploration last year of looking for venues, the Whitty was really a strong contender, as was the Skyroom at UIW. And they're much bigger, they have much larger capacity. The cost, I think, we saved a little bit being at the Institute, if my memory serves. I think so. But it was nominal.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's not,
And some of them
You're
have
gonna have to-
restrictions on caterers and things like that too. So there were a lot of things that went into it.
and I think that was the main differential on cost. We were able to use a caterer that,
Do we have to turn back people? Do we have to?
Actually, we didn't, you know, in the end, we were able to accommodate everyone.
the
we did
table
some
was so close to
negotiating
each other.
of,
Yeah, it
let's
was-
just turn this
it was
table
fine.
back, and that way
Right.
we can sell it to another prospective buyer, right?
Right.
You kind of want enough space for people to get around and go to the auction stuff, and everybody was pretty crammed in.
Well,
It's nice, y'all did a great event, you know, but it was, you know, AAA as far as I'm concerned about the overall success of it, but
And parking, we ran
Because we
into a
learn every
little bit of
time.
an issue in parking too. And, but we had overall positive remarks, but those were definitely things we wouldn't want to go back there.
well, we learned, of all the years we've been putting on these galas, we learn something every year, how we can critique something and maybe make it a little easier, you know.
Well, we talked about that jump. I mean, it was from the Floresville jump to more of a more higher end jump and as far as cost was too. So I think we succeeded.
Yep.
And I think we can get even better with just that as the model for what really we can
Exactly.
accomplish here. So I'm all up on trying to do
We looked
research
at
on.
La Vita again, I mean,
La Villita is actually smaller than the Institute
is it?
space. Yeah, which to me
Yeah,
it
that
seems
just
like
shows
it's
us how we
huge.
grew.
Yeah.
That's how this thing has gone.
And I don't know if that was in the redesign or when they did it, it always seemed very
It seemed like it was
exhausting to me.
sufficient in the past, but, you know, there again, we've been in Floresville for so long that, you know,
That
your
was pretty
brain
nice.
just kind of.
It is. We do have Shannon Albert, and Shannon is with CPS, and so I know that was definitely talked about because we all thought, let's go back to them.
Because it's right there
It's right there,
downtown, it's a
parking's-
neat location, good
Sure.
parking and all of that.
It was the summer. That,
That's just,
do you remember?
No, I don't remember hearing about what.
We'll put it down and make sure we visit it, but I'm pretty sure that was, Gretchen's compound.
Has anybody ever circled back with City Public Service about La Villita?
That's what she's gonna talk to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Right.
I can't hear out of this, dude.
I can't, I'm deaf in this area, can't hear out of that one.
Sorry.
And Gretchen, just wrote that the Whitty, has parking, which is really good.
Do we
And
need
parking
that?
does cost at La Vita.
In their parking garage.
Well, CPS always donated that over in the past, but, you know, it's different time.
Well, at one point, we were being pretty aggressive with city public service about the loss of tax revenue on Calaveras Lake and Bronx. And so they were able to say, well, we can't give you any money, but we can kind of give you an in-kind service.
Right.
And we'll let you use it and park.
Right.
And so, that was with Anthony Edwards and,
Right. Barnett.
Barnett, yeah.
Don.
They kind of facilitated that.
Well, now,
Are no longer.
the management of that though is not CPS anymore, is that right, Mary Beth?
They still own the property.
Yeah, but they
But
manage it
they
like,
they don't.
like they did before, where they had an internal person that helped us, you know, solidify that relationship, and now I don't think that's happening.
I don't know.
So CPS has, for all the years we were in Floresville, underwrote that venue because they've done the venue thing before.
Yeah.
And then when we moved over to the Institute, the cost of the venue itself was more expensive. So they did the same amount that CPS had done in the past, and the Massingales made up the difference. So that, if I remember correctly, that's the way it was, right? Lisa? But we'll make sure it's on the list.
At some point, I guess we'll have to strategize or talk about if it doesn't happen, what are our options? And I'm very optimistic, but I just don't know how, and even with, if things go well with just people's feelings of going into a larger space like that, so I think we need to start talking at some point or finding some sort of a cut point time-wise, whether it's in November or December, where we just kind of, because it takes, you guys, you know, it takes a long time to put that together. And what we don't want to do is start spending a lot of energy and then not, and then, you know,
Come
not
February,
be able
March,
to
we
do that. So
Yeah.
other options are being, you know, where we could provide something in the mail and maybe we could get some support with that and maybe do a silent auction of some sort maybe, and we could have the same thing with the virtual silent auction. And we just got to start thinking about that. It's going to be a little bit more effort this time, unfortunately, but we've got to start talking about that soon.
And I would say probably to just back on the point you're making, Carlos, is that with COVID and with the vaccine and with the trajectory that's expected in 2021, no one expects that the vaccines are going to be completely dispersed by March. So another question becomes, when do we have it? Should we push it off a little bit? Because
April, May.
in order to have something in, face to face versus, the virtual stuff, I can just tell you from my experience, is not as successful as when we come together.
No, and I think that's a great point. I think if we can extend that a little bit longer and try and make it work, I think there's merit to that. I really do.
And I know we've had them into April before, just not into May. Because then you start conflicting with a bunch of other stuff, school-wise, when you get it out there in May. So I'd say April is probably at the latest.
And watch out for Easter weekend.
Yes.
I was talking with
The first part of April.
two doctors that I go to. Next door is a couple of doctors that doing their residency at BAMC. We were talking about, about vaccines, that, well, if and when they get a vaccine that they say shows promise, and people, he said, that over half the people will not take the vaccine no matter what. I haven't had a flu vaccine in 30 years. And I haven't had the flu in 30 years. But everybody's immune system is different. And you have to consider all the underlying things that people have. But I was talking about doctor in January, and I always get a steroid shot for my allergies and CPAP. And I said, Jim, I haven't taken a flu. She said, I know. I said, how about you? He says, no. So, but I'm saying, the vaccine might be available. A lot of people would be scared to take it, just like they're scared to take the flu, the regular H1N1 and all that other. So you can't force them to take it.
I guess,
I just hope they do.
yeah, I think our reality, maybe not so much with our audience, but the reality of where we're gonna be is
I
that
will tell.
some people are not gonna come into those public places.
No, that's right.
No.
They're just not,
No.
and so we're probably gonna
Exactly.
have to design
There's gonna
Yes,
need to
they
be an
did.
online component to it, just like we've discussed in the past, because we've been addressing this for 5-7 years.
Online,
Where you have the
bidding.
online bidding and all of that, I think
This
you're
is
gonna
the time.
need to pull the trigger on it and say, hey, look, we're gonna be doing this
You know-
along with that. So it's gotta be kind of a marriage or a merger of the two.
You know what, I would,
Can we start reaching out in the next month or two to the school district and the schools and principals to start vetting through the schedule? Maybe in February, March, April, May, to see about where we can find a date, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday, or even maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday. I mean, we gotta kind of figure that out, where we don't have football, we don't have basketball. I know it's gonna be hard.
I know that I went with Robin and I can't remember, Mrs. Toscano, I believe, we went to the North Side Gala, which I believe was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think you're right, it's on a Tuesday, so we don't need to have the mindset, it's gotta be
Right.
on a Saturday, or it's gotta be on a Friday, although,
It's sometimes.
Well, when I was-
exactly, the venue might be cheaper and more available, there may be more availability on a
Mondays
Tuesday.
and Tuesdays are better rates than Friday, Saturday.
So I think we need to start thinking about that.
Well,
Because I don't have, I mean, I'm optimistic, but I still don't go into restaurants and eat because I'm still not there yet. I'm not sure if I'll be there
Yeah.
in a large setting like
yeah,
that.
sure, I go out all the time.
Well, Power C,
I can't cook.
Then you won't eat, right? You gotta go, you gotta go out.
Those frozen pot pies, girl. No, but, one thing, seriously, I agree with Carlos, but I really think it would behoove us to contact these other school foundations, see what their thoughts are on their galas and how they're gonna raise money. I know Alamo Heights, Northeast, Southwest, South, all of them, all the independent school districts have foundations. I just kind of wonder if we have, because I know some of the people at Southwest and Southside, and I used to go to the Northeast one. And
we can find out.
Well, the Harlandale,
Yeah.
it's always,
I think it's
just based on.
I think it'd be a good idea to find out what their thoughts, if they're gonna have a fundraiser anytime on their normal schedule.
And many of them did not have their galas early this weekend. We got lucky this year.
We did.
We just got lucky.
Yes, we did.
And, so most of them have done no gala, where you just simply underwrite
Right.
that people, and they glean about half of what they normally do.
Well, you gotta think that the corporations, companies want the recognition, and if nobody can see it,
Right.
they're gonna be like, what's the point? So you got a lot of resistance there that we haven't had in the past. So we gotta get innovative on how can we get exposure for these companies and corporations that they'll be seen as benevolent, because part of it is just the image. So we gotta
Absolutely.
gotta use our
And we have
brains
some
here,
experts
come
right
up
over
with a-
here in the marketing, piece of it too.
Well, I can tell you, just today's broadcast, we had close to 40 people watching at one time. When we do the superintendent Toscano Lives, I mean, they get up there 500-600 people. So,
We've had party here today.
mhm.
Oh, Big brother's watching over us.
Yeah. So,
That's great.
yeah, tell them hello.
They were
Hey, thank you very much.
tuned in to see Barry.
That's right.
So doing it virtual is, and we have the setup, obviously, we can do that.
That's great.
That might be something to look at in the future,
Sure.
and organize that.
This is old school, but back when you used to put notices in the newspaper of things that were happening, you could submit it and they would print it for free if it was a nonprofit organization. And they probably have an equivalent on the internet now. And that might be an option to list our people that underwrote things or something like that. I don't know how well that would go.
Or
If they would
even,
accept that
even
idea.
on the screen that they're looking at for their,
Oh, as they do the silent.
as they're doing the silent auction, you could have, Ritter House and Associates,
Well, all
or
that stuff
some
you
other
can do.
company's name up there that says, exactly.
I hate to say this,
you know, underwritten by.
Lisa and I know this really well, but KLR and Blazing Gavel's auction,
Right.
we worked that many, many years. And so, yeah, you're right, you can do the Ritter House logo, and then, you know, there's an announcer reading a script saying, no, this is donated by,
Exactly.
you know, so-and-so Ritter House, and blah, blah, the current value is 20.
The Ecumenical Society or whoever it may be, you could have that logo and that branding on it, so they can say, oh, okay, yeah, these guys are really trying to help out this community here.
I know somebody who just recently did an online auction, a silent and live auction, they did it both online.
Did
They did it this last week. I don't know how it's turned out.
Who was that? Louis?
It's the Coastal Conservation.
Oh, yeah.
What it's called.
CCA?
They had to- Yeah, they had to cancel their gala this year, and that's usually huge. They make-
I'm sure it is.
But
It's like,
I
I've
got
gone
an
to
email
those.
saying, hey, tune into this live auction.
I've gone to that one in Austin, it's one of the big ones, CCA there.
So I don't know, I can contact him and see how they did, and if he has any ideas.
I think the more we can benchmark, the better. Gretchen just weighed in on everything that's been discussed, and she agrees, Carlos and Barry. And you may maybe have some underwriting of proposed projects as part of the silent auction if we do have to do it virtually.
Right.
She concurred about, we're probably not going to get the crowd we had before.
I was even thinking, you know, the high school has a sign out front, right, it's electronic, you could even have names for a month that flash periodically up there as a thank you for your support or whatever there, where you get quote unquote advertising out there.
The
Hey,
new
just say
type.
the football game.
Exactly, on the big screen out there, exactly right.
I wonder,
You know, we got to follow the box a little bit.
For sure.
I wonder if we might contact Anthony Mahosky and just ask Anthony, what does your schedule look like as far as your involvement in galas and auctioning and fundraiser? You might have some, he might give us some input on.
Yeah, I don't know. how
What his
far in
forecast
advance
is.
He has things scheduled, but that's during rodeo time too, if you're talking about February and March, because there's all kinds of
Oh, yeah.
rodeos going on, they do a lot of livestock stuff. So I don't know how, if my son doing it now, Anthony's pretty much retired.
I think I'll call Anthony. I talked to him not too long ago.
That would be great. You know, we're talking about maybe not trying to do it the first quarter, but looking maybe at the early part of the second quarter.
And maybe the resolution there is to find a smaller venue and do it concurrent with an online event. And that
So
might,
we'd have less expense.
exactly, smaller venue.
Because we can still
Because
have,
if we're gonna have half, so if we got 25 tables as opposed to 40, 50, then we don't need a bigger venue because of the lack of participation and actual attendance.
Maybe we could give the option of buying a real table or a virtual table.
And that's true too.
That's right.
You know,
well,
Underwriting.
so if people want to give us the $650 or whatever it is, they can still
And
get
maybe
it.
discount the virtual table, right?
Yeah, 'cause it's
So at
gonna be
least they'll be donating, right, as opposed to not having that revenue altogether. So if we can have 75, 80% of the revenue as opposed to 50%, I think that's a win.
Well, if we can cut the expenses.
Exactly, and concurrently
Yeah.
cutting expense, then maybe you can get the revenue, you know, plus expense, maybe you can get it to where it's almost equaling what we did this past year.
John Dante owns Papa Dante's, and they built a new event center in back. And I had lunch the other day and asked one of the girls, what are you gonna do next year? I said, we're opening up, we've already got some things booked. So they're gonna set it up, I'm sure, with the social distancing, the table spread out. But that would be a really good size for us if we want to put in 15, 20 tables with the live auction and silent auction with the virtual. And you wouldn't have that many, you might have 100 people, 7,500 people. And if everybody's social distancing correctly and
If we've had
might
fewer
be, all right, might be
tables,
safe.
we could go back to the place we were last year, or earlier this year.
And it's
That's true too.
pretty good size little venue, but. they got
And I
food
think-
everything.
I think depending upon how we time it and depending upon the vaccine, depending upon COVID, it's gonna determine, because I think there's gonna be a lot of us, pointing at me too, that just wanna be around people, you know, because we've been so restricted, so, but who can look in that crystal ball and know for sure, right?
So, I tell you what, this is all great, and I know we've captured that on the recording, so we can go back and get good notes. I've made a few notes here, but I think it would be important to schedule a planning committee meeting, and I think if you guys are willing and able to be, I know Carla's, you're on the list already for the planning committee, and Gloria, and if we can go ahead
And I'm in on that committee too.
Perfect.
Put me on there.
That's great, that's great. I think.
Like everybody else, we've been having a weird year this year, so,
Well, we could always meet
Virtually.
virtually, or we could do whatever.
or we can just call each other.
Do people still do that?
What's that? Oh, what is that?
Great. Well, why don't we try to, Lisa, would you mind sending out a schedule poll and checking for the first 2 weeks in October?
Okay.
Since we're already almost there, and find a time that we can all get together, or the majority of the group can get together. And we'll carry forward the conversation today.
I think that's great.
Into that, prior to that, I'll reach out and just ask, I think it was Shannon that had done the research, so we'll ask Shannon if she could bring the notes from last time. And
Right.
even update them if she has time, you know, just to kind of get us all that works. Yeah, and Gretchen says, if the link works, that works good. Thank you, Gretchen. We missed you today, but I'm glad to hear from you and know you're there. So, any further business before we adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Bye, Gretchen.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.